And we have a special Out in the Open panel tonight. They'll be with us throughout the hour to talk about self-segregation. Molly Secours, who writes a column on race relations for blackcommentator.com. CNN contributor Roland Martin. Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson, founder and president of Brotherhood Organization for a New Destiny. And James Edwards, host of the Political Cesspool on WRL MAM radio in Memphis, Tennessee. Welcome all.
Thank you. Good to be here, Paula.
One of the most striking things about talking to these kids is the extent to which they downplayed the issue of race and why it is all the white kids sat together, the black kids and Hispanics. Do you buy that?
I don't. You know, a lot of white Americans are afraid to talk about race and morality concerning black Americans.
But I was talking to black kids too. They said the same thing. They said, we want to be around kids that have something in common with us. We're in schoolrooms with them all day long. Lunches are, you know, the
you do find
little bit of time that we have to relax.
People tend to be comfortable with folks that they know, but when it comes to white and black, the white and black issue, most black Americans are racist and resentful of white Americans, and so they don't feel comfortable around white Americans. And instead of facing their racism, they say, well, it's the white man. White people are racist toward us, and white folks are fed up. They are afraid to speak up for fear of being called racist. They are now afraid to hang around with black Americans because of the fear of saying the wrong thing.
So you're telling me these kids at this school, in this racially diverse city, are all racist?
I'm not saying
or just the black kids?
I'm not saying that they all are, but I am saying that most blacks are today, and we haven't dealt with the issue of racism from black Americans toward white folks, because blacks have been told that they can't be a racist by their quote-unquote leaders, and so racism within the hearts and minds of black folks concerning white Americans have not been dealt with.
All right. Do you not like me? Do you not like James? Do you not like white people, Roland Martin?
First of all, the nonsense that Reverend Peterson is spewing is ridiculous. Here's the reality. Folks live in areas where they live, so they go to school. You have an understanding of where you're simply from. I went to Texas A&M, and it was interesting when students from large cities would sit with students from large cities. Students from rural towns would sit with students from rural towns. Texas A&M was 86% white.
Right.
When I was a student there. That is the reality. Now, the issue is what happens when you only stay in that particular area. I don't buy this nonsense that they're racist. People are simply comfortable based upon circumstance, based upon where they're from, based upon culture, based upon knowledge. That's what it boils down to.
Roland is in denial, Paula. Let me say, Roland is in denial. I wrote an article for WorldNetDaily.com looking for one strong white man, a white man that would speak up. And I received truckloads of emails from white Americans who said that I am afraid to deal with black folks for fear of being called a racist. I got it from preachers and non-preachers alike.
James.
Paula, Reverend Peterson's absolutely right. As a white American, I think that what's portrayed throughout the controlled media is that self-segregation is something that we should apologize for, when in fact the exact opposite is true. I think that it's perfectly natural and healthy that one would choose to associate with members of their own families, people with whom they share the same values and traditions and heroes. There's nothing enriching for white school children to be bused across town to gang-ridden schools in which they have to walk through metal detectors before they can report to class.
This is a racially diverse school. I mean, we're talking about a school that actually where they got rid of segregation years and years ago by federal mandate.
The idea of white people are afraid to be called racist. First of all, we need to get over this whole thing of, am I a racist, am I not? The answer is yes. You cannot grow up in America and not be racist if you are white.
Are you saying all white people are racist?
I'm saying all white people start off being racist.
That's insanity.
You cannot.
See, that's the type of stuff that's been taught to the kids.
Finish, please? You cannot grow up in this culture without being racist. Once you accept the fact that you have inherited it, it's in the air.
So do you agree with me that most blacks are racist to all whites today?
By the time I die, I will be less racist. But it's only to the degree that I work against being racist.
But what about the Reverend's point, that he feels that blacks are more racist towards whites than whites towards blacks?
Racism equals prejudice plus power. Blacks in this country do not have power. They do not have...
You don't have to have power. You don't have to have power, Paula. You do not have to have power to be a racist.
You have to have power.
Okay,
conservatives are discriminated
All right.
against by liberal blacks, like this guy here. They're called
All
occupied.
right, hang on. We got to hang on. James, you get the last thought, and then we'll come back to all of you.
He doesn't have any
Time out. James, you get the last word, then you all get to chime in after the break.
Only liberal demagogues believe that human nature can be carried away on an integrated school bus. There's nothing wrong with European Americans standing up for their culture and their traditions, and you want that for minorities, well, we want it for ourselves. And I think many white Americans are seeing through this charade, and I'm one of them that's beginning to speak out against it.
Do you consider yourself a racist?
No, I consider myself a man who's proud of his cultural heritage.
All right, we're going to take a short break. Hold your thoughts, hold your fire. We've got a lot more to discuss.
I don't think that that's what most people intended when they moved out here, that this would become a segregated community. I think that, I'm talking about African Americans moved into communities like Lithonia in the hopes that they would be welcomed. It simply didn't happen. As African Americans began to move into Lithonia and Southeast DeKalb County, white people began to move out.
We continue our special hour now, Divided We Stand, self-segregation in America. That minister we just heard is talking about an affluent and largely black suburb just east of Atlanta, but it could be anywhere in America. Let's go back to our Out in the Open panel now. Molly Secours and Roland Martin, who think that self-segregation is natural, not always a reflection of racism. Also with us tonight, Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson, who says blacks are often responsible for self-segregation and victimization, and James Edwards, who is a white separatist. Welcome back. Now, you have been highly critical of African Americans. You think a lot of crime and poverty follows where they are. Take a look at that community. Well, look, is that a place where you could live?
No, it absolutely does follow them, and you know that it does. And I think CNN outdid themselves in finding the strong, affluent black community, because that is certainly the exception and not the rule. 9 times out of 10, integration is a one-way street that runs directly through white neighborhoods. And I think that we've seen that throughout the last 40 years as the failed civil rights movement has manifested itself in our daily lives.
You know what, Paul, let me make something very clear. It is offensive for him to project this level of ignorance on national television. First and foremost, have you even been there? You've understood the community. You haven't.
I've lived amongst your people.
But you have to know.
Absolutely.
Watch your people. That's Ross Perot. Here's the whole deal with this community. You're dealing with African Americans of a particular income level. Okay, so when you talk about self-segregation, it's not just based upon race. The piece laid out this whole issue of race, but it's also based upon income.
You know what the minister said? He said very clearly, we fight disrespect almost everywhere. We don't have to be white in this community.
And people who live in that neighborhood also talked about when they lived in affluent white neighborhoods, when they walked their kids down the streets, people perceived them as being the nanny, and they said they got sick and tired of that level of injustice. So they said, wait a minute, I don't want to have to sit here and spend $1 million on a home. And somebody thinks I'm a nanny? That's offensive.
You have several dynamics going on in Atlanta. Out of Los Angeles, for example, many blacks are moving back to Atlanta because of illegal alien situation in Atlanta. They're running blacks out of their communities. Also, blacks are separating themselves because of their own hatred or resentment toward white folks. They don't feel comfortable, and instead of looking at that, they're blaming white folks.
You think they're moving to Lithonia because they don't like white folks? I mean, you saw that one white family integrate quite nicely.
And you heard the lady say that she was afraid to move in. Because we are so separated, thanks to the so-called civil rights movement, the blacks and whites are so separated, we haven't really got to know each other.
They're separated because of the civil rights movement? Could they be separated because of what happened before the
because Jesse Jackson and others have intimidated
now all of a sudden the civil rights movement is responsible for separatism.
Somehow know you're a racist. Show me the check. But let me make this
let Molly jump in.
You said enough,
Jesse.
Hold on, Roland.
I just want us to pay attention here. Belle Meade is a community in Nashville, very affluent community, 99.9% white, I would say. I have never heard of anyone saying this area is self-segregated. This is where white people live. This is where affluent white people. But no, we deconstruct a neighborhood in Georgia because affluent black people are there, and we're calling it self-segregation. We don't call that self-segregation in Belle Meade where white people live.
But doesn't that have something to do with populations you're talking about, whites being the majority population?
Yes,
it is, but that's what I'm saying. Is why do we deconstruct deconstruct black people? Why do we put them under a microscope and say, my goodness, look at these people. They would like to have a nice life.
Let me also give you a critical fact. It's a critical fact.
So that's why
New Birth Missionary Baptist Church was run by Bishop Eddie L. Long. That church now is 9% Hispanic. They now have a Hispanic worship service. What you're seeing is Lithonia is becoming a diverse. That church, 25,000 members right there in Lithonia. That is the reality. It's a reality.
I want to just disagree with one thing that he said. You know, crime does follow blacks who don't have two parents in their homes. Crime and violence and lack of moral character, right?
So white folks don't commit crimes, right?
But where there are two parents, but where there are two parents, you don't tend to find out of control crime.
I think that
you're talking about self-segregation.
Stable family.
Yes.
That applies to
You're talking about self-segregation, but forced integration is not a path to equality. It's a march towards totalitarianism. And all of these liberal talking heads that want to crow about the wonders of diversity, spend a week on the mean streets of South Memphis and you'll graduate with a degree in race relations.
Wow.
From the man who doesn't believe in integration, who's not racist.
I don't believe in forced integration.
Memphis is out of control. He's absolutely right.
Now Memphis is out.
Whoa. Hang on. Hold your thoughts.
I guess your neighborhood is really safe, huh?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, right.
Oh, boy.
You patrol there?
Hang on.
Gotcha.
Stay with me. The conversation, I promise, will continue on the other side. Save it.
I'm sorry.
There is still some time to let us know what you all think. Go to back to our panel now. Molly Secours, Roland Martin, Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson, that is, excuse me, and James Edwards. So what is it, Roland, that whites don't get about the black church experience?
Well, it's not a question of that. The bottom line is...
But it is. We're not there. We're not packing the churches with you side by side.
Look, but here's the reality. Our churches come from our neighborhoods. Our neighborhoods typically are segregated, and that's the reality of it. Also, different worship experiences. And that's what you have there. You do have people who don't want to be honest about celebrating one God, but they want to be separate because they have different perspectives when it comes to worship.
Molly?
And why would we worship together? I mean, historically, we have to, the self-segregation topic, we have to look historically on what this is about and how it got to be this way. Whites have always driven segregation. And historically, African people had to hide their religion, their spirituality when they came here. So there's always been that separation, and there was safety in segregation for what you're calling self-segregation. That's about safety. That's about protection.
We want to hear what you have to think about this. We asked you our quick vote question. Is self-segregation bad for race relations in the U.S.? 46% of you said yes. 37% said no. 17% says doesn't matter. We should make it clear the results are not scientific. What do you make of those results?
Well, I don't know what to make of the results. I mean, obviously the people who tune in to CNN probably wouldn't be of a conservative persuasion for the most part. But getting back to the churches, as a Christian...
Well, it's not that we measure that by our...
Well, no, but listen, as a Christian, I've always been under the impression that it was the role of the church to bring people into the acceptance of Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior, not to preach the failed social gospel of cultural Marxism. And I reject the term segregationist. I reject the term separatist. I'm a man who is proud of his ethnicity. Is Mr. Martin a black separatist because he's proud of his race?
No, I'm not a black separatist. I am a Christian. And what I understand during Holy Week is that you cannot stand here as a so-called Christian and talking about walking in the footsteps of Jesus and dare say you are a separatist. That is absolutely against...
I didn't say it.
That is absolutely against what Jesus stood for.
Thank you.
Billy Graham was the first to say that the churches are separated on Sundays between blacks and whites. Well, white Americans need to understand that things are not going to change until they get over this false guilt that they have about the condition or concerning the conditions of black folks. They're going to have to get over the fear.
You mean you're saying we white people feel tremendous guilt?
Right,
and that's
false
what's
guilt.
hanging us up on fostering better relations between blacks and whites?
It's not your fault. So whites have to get over the fear. Whites must get over that fear and start standing up and defending themselves.
Paula, here's what has to happen.
Things would change.
Before we get to what happens, we've gotten a lot of email, and a lot of folks are really mad at you tonight, Molly, so I want you to respond to this one.
So.
They say, Elizabeth, I take great exception with the woman on your show. I hope they mean you, not me. Yeah, this was you that said this. That said, if you are white, you are born racist. I think it is ignorant to think that everyone white is born racist, and I think it perpetuates the problems that we have with racism.
I said you cannot be raised in this country and not be racist. That's what I'm saying is we are raised as racist.
But Molly,
I don't believe that.
Are you saying that you, a white woman, you are racist?
I'm becoming
then you need
less
to get
and less.
over that.
No, it's
Why
I am.
are you racist?
The work that
Why
I'm
are you
doing.
simply because you're white?
Could I finish one sentence?
But why do you consider yourself a racist?
Yeah.
Because
Well, Jesse, let him talk.
If you just let me finish. So if you grow up in this culture, this is a white supremacist society. We were founded on white supremacist principles. The founding fathers had slaves. We have not gotten...
We're not living in the 1800s anymore,
Well, okay, look at the criminal justice system. Why is it that 70% of the jail space is taken up by African Americans?
Because
And they
they're
are
committing
14%
crimes.
of the
They are
population.
committing crimes. They don't have attorneys to get them out of jail.
Okay.
That's why
James.
they're in
Personal
jail.
insult
Okay, final word.
The personal insult is the last recourse in an exhausted mind. Only European Americans are called racist for wanting to look after their cultural interests.
Final word from you, Roland. Quick one.
To change this, you have to have black pastors and white pastors actually discuss what James Meeks is doing in Chicago.
you don't need
Salem,
to pass
excuse
it
me,
to folks.
with Salem Baptist Church in Willow Creek.
People.
They are getting together with the
All right.
congregation
You
and saying,
cannot depend
this is
on
how we
pastors.
break down
We've been
racism.
looking
You got
at
10
this
seconds.
for
Come on.
400 years, and I think it's time that we take a look at
You need to get
the
over your
results of
racism.
that.
But
And I don't think the
All
so-called
right.
pastor will be trying to break
cannot
this
depend on
down.
a pastor.
I
Other
believe
people
that.
are going to have to do that.
Oh, it's so hard to cut off a reverend, but I have to. Someone's got to pay for this.
Are you
Gotta
sure
get
he's a
money here from
reverend?
the
Check the
church.
papers.
Yeah, he is.
I don't know.
All right,
Check
we'll
the
be right
paperwork.
back. Thank you, team.